In our last Lord Focus video, we looked at the Red Duke and considered the case for him becoming a fully playable legendary lord in Warhammer 3, a scenario which is not too far-fetched. Today we look at the winner of the last poll and one of the most interesting Tomb King characters, Prince Apophas. Warhammer 2 saw the addition of the Tomb Kings as a playable race with 4 legendary lords, and now with Warhammer 3's release, I think we must ask the question, will we see any new legendary lords for the Tomb Kings in the final installment of the trilogy? If we do, what are the chances that Prince Apophas will be among them? Apophas was a man consumed by jealousy and lust for the throne of Numas, to such a degree that he slit the throats of the entire royal line as they slept. He then proclaimed himself king, intending to rule with an iron fist. His betrayal of the royal line did not sit well with the people of Numas, as the murdered members of the royal family were loved by the populace. Murmurs of his evil deeds were whispered throughout the city, leading to an uprising of the people against him. Those loyal to the murdered king broke into the throne room and dragged Apophas, the usurper, to the temples to be judged. Regicide was the most serious of crimes in Nehekara, and those who committed that crime and attempted to seize the throne were denied the privilege of mummification, with their bones instead thrown to the carrion of the surrounding desert. Having been denied access to the lands of the honoured dead, those vile souls were banished to the torturous depths of the underworld, or utter oblivion. The crimes of Apophas were so shocking that he was served a more severe form of punishment, being entombed alive within a sarcophagus, with hundreds of flesh-eating scarabs. So loud and tortured were his screams, they passed through the temple walls and could be heard by passers-by. Eventually the screaming stopped, and the lid was opened. But there was no trace of the scarabs. An impossibility, but true nonetheless. All that remained was a skull picked clean of flesh. This last remnant of the cursed prince was thrown into the desert. It was inscribed with a single magical hieroglyph, cursing Apophas' soul for all of eternity. For the people of Numas, that was the end of the prince. His story would fade into legend as the centuries passed. Upon his death, the soul of the prince was claimed by the god of the underworld, Usurian. He would be cast into the depths of hell to be tormented for eternity for his crimes. Apophas, though, being of noble birth, was granted an audience with Usurian, allowing him the opportunity to strike a bargain for his release. Apophas would have to find a match for his soul as a gift for Usurian, a match he would find in his renewed form as the cursed Scarab Lord. Appearing as a swarm of beetles that rise up from the ground, Apophas is now a formidable foe. He carries the blade that he used to slit the throats of the royal family, still dripping with their blood, and only by slaying a soul to match his own with this weapon will he earn his freedom. Apophas is a shifting, writhing form on the battlefield, able to pass through gaps without impediment and change his form at will, able to burst apart in an explosion of insects at will, and then reform far across the battlefield. No matter how hard an enemy thrusts or swipes at his horrifying form, the scarabs will evade their attacks, and fill any wounds that might be caused, making Apophas nigh on invulnerable. He binds his target's spirit in a soul cage created by Usurian, and then returns it to his master in the depths of the underworld. There the soul is weighed against Apophas' own, on a pair of magical scales, and if the scales should balance, then Apophas would be freed from his fate. Usurian, though, intends to never balance the scales. Instead, he has allowed Apophas to doom himself to roam the lands for all of eternity. On the tabletop, Apophas comes with several special rules. 2 core effects are Terror and Regeneration, with 3 unique abilities. There is Desert Revenant, which prevents Prince Apophas from joining any unit and being your army's general. This would of course not make sense for Warhammer 3, as lords cannot join units at all, and if Apophas is added as a legendary lord, one would think he would be able to lead an army. However, having Apophas being the faction leader, but being limited to a hero role on the battlefield, would be an interesting twist. The second special ability is Scarab Prince, where Apophas' body is made of a scuttling tide of scarabs that he can vomit over his foes. This is represented as a Strength 2 breath attack. This ability also ensures that if Apophas is ever destroyed, then all units within 2d6 inches of him will immediately take 2d6 Strength 2 hits. These could be represented as two distinct abilities in-game. The first, a breath spell with 2 or 3 uses, that causes armor-piercing damage to foes in its path, as the scarabs consume their bodies. The second part of the ability would be an explosion which is triggered upon death, damaging any units in range, whether they be friendly or not. His third tabletop ability is called Soul Reaper. This allows Prince Apophas to nominate one enemy character on the battlefield, and that character is then marked by the god of the underworld. Apophas must claim him at some point during the battle. He is also able to re-roll any failed 2-hit and 2-wound rolls against that chosen character. I'm not sure I will bother with this special ability, as the main campaign mechanic would cover this aspect of Apophas' lore. For magic items, Apophas would carry the blade which he used to slaughter the royal family. This blade could cause poison damage, have a high armor-piercing value, and come with a few campaign bonuses. It would also be nice to see it come with some bound spell that allows Apophas to slow an enemy character for a short period. So how about mechanics? What could we see implemented for the cursed Scarab Lord? Prince Apophas is all about finding that one soul that can release him from his torment. So a mechanic where he can capture a hero or lord once per battle, much like Altharion's Cage, and draw the soul from them, would be a lawful addition. The prince would be able to store a limited number of souls, which can be spent on upgrades for himself and for other lords and heroes in his faction. The number of souls that can be contained could then be increased through technologies or character skills, so the higher cost abilities could be purchased. At first, Apophas would be unable to harvest the souls of legendary lords, but as he gained power through the campaign, he would be able to take the souls of these greater characters. The souls captured would be displayed on the main toolbar and could be spent in a system similar in form to the greenskin scrap mechanic, but there would be the option of applying multiple abilities at one time. Apophas could start anywhere on the map, since his story is about harvesting the souls of characters, and not about rebuilding an empire. As such, he may be included as some type of horde faction, though we would need some mechanic to avoid the AI from reclaiming settlements that you have destroyed. Perhaps a combination faction, which has elements of both types of armies, could work for Apophas, as he did desperately want to be king. As for the Realms of Chaos mechanic, Apophas might see that claiming the god bear's soul could be a way to free himself from the grip of Assyrian, but I think it would be best if he ignored that whole mechanic completely. I think the odds are very good that we will see 1 or 2 more legendary lords for the Tomb Kings, and with the list of characters being quite small when compared to other races, I think this would improve Apophas' chances of being included. Apophas is also one of the few remaining lords from the 8th edition army book, yet to be added to the game. This is likely another factor in his favour. If Warhammer 3 has a long DLC cycle, and regains the players it lost from its poor launch, then I believe we will indeed see Apophas added to the game. I certainly can't wait to see what Creative Assembly do with him. So, there we have Prince Apophas, the cursed Scarab Lord. Would you like to see him added as a fully playable legendary lord in Warhammer 3? Or is there a different Tomb King lord you would rather see added first? I hope you enjoyed this video, and will leave a like or subscribe. And please don't forget to vote in the poll for who you would like to see next. This video was brought to you with the help of my patrons. Thanks to Hot Apple Pie and Solarith Magnetar. If you would like to help out the channel, then you can check out the Patreon or become a member here on YouTube. I'm Grey Tiger, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.